Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's JamBox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. With that being said, here's a quick word from our sponsor. Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles, wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. All right, thank you all so much for watching again. Shout out The Brothers Apothecary. Make sure to click the link below and go check them out. Guarantee you're going to like it. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
What's up, guys? It's Denny.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me out, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, what you do. Give us that, Tinder profile of moment with music.
24-year-old Caucasian. No,
likes long walks on the
for
beach.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. 24 years old, hip-hop, R&B musician. Been doing it since I was a youngin'. I'm out in Eugene currently. Work with a lot of people in the Salem, Portland area, and trying to just expand that to the PNW.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And what got you started in music initially?
Initially, it wasn't rap and hip hop. It was one of those typical stories. Started in the church choir type deal.
Okay.
My uncle did rap at the time, and started off with just he's like, I want that kid choir sound, type deal, and it would just like singing his hooks and stuff. And then got to the point where I was like, I want to be a rapper, and he would give me the little 8 bars to spit or something, and then it became like a fixation. And then when I started doing it on my own, I'd say maybe probably around 13. Yeah.
Okay, cool. How old were you when you started choir?
Oh, 8 years old. Yeah,
okay,
I was singing.
So you guys started real young.
Yeah, just the high harmonies in the background.
Did you stop doing that around the time you got into rap, or did you keep doing it for a while? Yeah,
I would say it was kind of maybe a harmless overlap. No, it was probably about a year, I'd say. Lifestyle was kind of changing along with that, and the singing worship songs was slowly becoming
not as cool.
Well, yeah, and just more forced than
no, I gotcha.
More forced than sought after. So
no, I gotcha.
Yeah.
I guess then, was anybody else in your house? Because I know you said your uncle was.
Mm-hmm.
But, was anybody else in your household musical growing up?
Absolutely. Yeah, my dad actually, in high school, he went to Thurston High School. It's near Eugene, actually in Springfield, out in Oregon. And he actually played Flight of the Bumblebee on the tuba and got a full ride scholarship to Juilliard.
Yeah, I think if you play that on any instrument, you deserve a full ride scholarship.
Yeah, I actually got
somewhere.
the tattoo on my arm for it there. Yeah, but it's awesome. Flight of the Bumblebee on the tuba. It was a giant man. So dude, he had definitely had the lung capacity for it. But my dad had perfect pitch.
Okay.
So he that definitely was one of those things where, he heard his head would tilt if you were flat or sharp. So you knew if you were singing wrong in the, you know what I'm saying?
Did he have a different side for flat versus sharp?
Absolutely. Yeah. Left for sharp and flat. He was kind of like in his ears. You know what I'm saying? Big guy. You just see it, just the head nod for sure. So, but yeah, I feel like that for sure. And then my sister is an amazing singer. She doesn't do, just have any music release per se, but I remember on my first ever Instagram videos and stuff, it was just me and her singing renditions and or covers of other people's songs and such. So yeah, not the most musical background in direct family, but my uncle for sure. I wanted to be just like him.
Oh yeah, no, I think that. And then we have a couple questions we check in with everybody on.
Absolutely.
These are just format ones. But this first one's one we ask early. It's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
Man, so I don't I don't know if it counts. So I got a gift card for back in the day when you could get like the Apple gift cards.
Okay.
You could pretty much only use it for like iTunes.
Yeah.
You could get very limited movies, or like if my parents approved, I could get like games on my phone. But or that was a little bit later on. But in 2000, I think 2005, the Shuffle came out, and I got it the year later. And being Christian raised, I got When the Music Stops, Lecrae's first album.
Okay.
That like the black and white photo with him with the red bandana. That was my first album that I bought. But again, it was a gift card gift. So
I mean, we'll still let that count.
we'll let it slide.
We'll still let it
But
count. Yeah.
Other than that, it would be Restoring Force by Of Mice and Men.
Okay.
That would be the one that I've
that was like the first one. You were like,
I
go
put
buy
my credit
this.
card number in on, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, hell yeah.
Buy that. So yeah, that would be the first one if the Lecrae doesn't count.
We'll let both of them count.
Okay,
for sure.
cool.
And then what was the first live show you ever went to? That was like one you wanted to go to. So like you saw it was happening, you got tickets, and you went to it.
I'm fuzzy on the year, but it would be ASAP Ferg, and then Playboy Carti actually ended up opening for him, which was like way before he was.
That's probably a wild show.
Popular. It was very fun. Yeah, I got merch that was then stolen from the locker room like a week later. 'Cause I went to a really small school.
Oh no!
Like, real small school. Like no one would have known who did it, type deal, unless
you saw him wearing it,
somebody, and then or saw him wearing it. Yeah, it got stolen. It was the all black one, had like a skull with like blue lightning going through it. But yeah, you could probably find.
Well, that's too bad. But I mean, ASAP Ferg is definitely a cool show to go.
Yeah, dude, and like it was no way talking any smack, but it was kind of when he had a bunch of the hype going in, and ASAP was very prevalent. Like I said, it was before Playboy Carti had really
like blown up
blown up. He was just like an opener that people were like, whoa, he's kind of wavy, you know what I'm saying? And then, Ferg came out, and it was just... it
was game over.
Yeah, game over from there, yeah.
I always like hearing anytime someone's like, oh, I'm going to the show, or oh, I went to the show a while back. My first question is always, who was the opener?
Yeah.
It's always one of those moments where you're like, it's either it's somebody who was going to be cool and is, or like somebody who is going to be cool,
that was
or just like
way
super
back.
Surprising,
For sure, yeah. Or they're complete different genres.
Yeah,
I've seen some weird ones. Yeah.
This will probably be the third time I've mentioned this on the show, but in the time of reality, I think it's officially happening today, so I can stop mentioning it after this. I know the Red Hot Chili Peppers right now are touring with Ken Carson, which I think is the most bizarre collaboration of like artists to be on a bill together.
Did you see? It was probably a couple years back at this point, but when all the rap artists were doing collab albums with Travis Barker.
Oh yeah, I do remember that.
Like heavy, like down from like Suicide to like even Lil Wayne, like, and I believe there was a couple other like multiple people were doing collaborative art, like
I mean, Travis has always been kind of like.
Yeah,
a little. He's been around, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like,
but they were like heavy, like just out there, and I was just like, dude, it's definitely. I've seen some crazy crops up. So I know openers are a little bit different spectrum, but yeah, I've seen it happen.
Yeah, no, definitely. I remember when I was way younger, I got to see. It was like a mini festival, so it's just like it was like 7 bands that were playing, not like a full day experience.
Yeah.
But like it was all these like it was like the Academy is Cobra Starship, Fall Out Boy, and then Paul Wall. Paul Wall was just randomly there. And nobody, because he wasn't like.
Did he perform?
He did, yeah. Like he had his own set. That's the thing, is it's not like they like needed a rap artist for one particular song for like the main act. He just was on the bill. I mean, he did great. Don't get me wrong. Like, it was cool to see Paul
Was
Wall.
It like Fall Out Boy straight over to Paul Wall?
No. It was the other. It was Cobra Starship opening. The Academy is after that.
Okay.
I feel like there was one more band I can't remember, and then Paul Wall, and then Fall Out Boy.
Oh, so they did kind of one genre switch. Bring it back. Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was I thought he was kind of a strange addition to the lineup, but it was cool. Like, I was stoked to see Paul, so that was worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but
one of those.
Yeah, you just never know.
One of those legends, hate him or love him. It's just one of those.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
I saw an interview with him and Theo Von, and it was actually like a pretty wholesome interview.
Wow.
Yeah, like surprisingly so. Like I didn't know what to expect, but anytime it's a Theo Von interview, I'm like, I'm gonna give it at least the benefit of the doubt.
Go ahead.
Otherwise, exactly.
Something else.
Yeah.
Goodness. Yeah, that's a really crazy interview. I need to check that out.
It's definitely fun. But
I saw something in Paul Wall going off like a cappella, and he's like at his age now doing some of his older stuff, and you're just like, when you hear like, obviously without that all that pop and that sound that they were going for back then when he stripped it down to the lyrics and he's just like sitting there with a couple nice cars behind him. I was just like, yo, he
still got it.
He still got it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
And he definitely, he cleaned up a lot. Like, he was going through it for a while and he even talks about it on that interview, but he's really cleaned up a lot. And I think that really shows in what he does now.
For sure.
But this isn't his interview.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, I just thought that was crazy. Good chat.
Yeah, but let's go ahead and get back into it. And we've got one last question to go in the beginning portion before we move into more of the here and now.
Yeah.
But do you have like a defining moment where you decided you wanted to take music more seriously?
Could get real deep for a moment. Dude, I honestly found myself alone. And not a lot of friends. I lived out in the country. I didn't drive. Long penny board ride if I wanted to, and an even longer walk if I wanted to go in and do anything. But did have a little bit of the musical talent and a little bit of background, like I'd said. So I didn't have necessarily a bunch of the theory. But when I found myself alone and it was just music didn't make it as bad, I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. And then again, it kind of got inspired by a couple cats and my uncle being one of the big ones. But yeah, when I found that it was like, this is what could make me not alone or other people feel this way, so I'm going to make a track for them type of deal, like be a voice. And I'd say that was kind of the defining moment. I was just found myself at a dark time and music started becoming one of the only bright spots. So I'd say that was kind of the defining moment for sure.
No, I feel that. And thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
But now let's go ahead and let's get on into you in the present day.
Hey.
And we're going to get a super easy one out of the way.
Cool.
How'd you pick the name?
So I did a show. Well, actually, I'll take it back to that. My father passed when I was 13, and he always called me Denny. And for a while, I was doing the typical, just started off kind of very arrogant, pompous rap, and I was I went by Denny on the SoundCloud, but it was again a bunch of secular stuff, you know what I'm saying, a little bit more vulgar, a lot of lies, claiming stuff I wasn't doing, and you know, just the typical everybody wants to be a rapper, gangster type deal, you know?
Yeah, a lot of posturing.
Yeah, for sure. And once I had a realization when I went to a studio and homie pretty much, long story short, was like, hey man, you've got potential. I don't know why you're doing this stuff. Try doing this. And when I finally did do that, I cut it to just Denny. And I went to a show. It was a Memorial Day show at the closed down now, but I think it's the Paris Theater in Portland that's was right next to Voodoo. And the promoter asked me what my name was over Messenger, and I was trying to be respectful and be like, it is Denny, not just like hit him with a one-word reply like Denny. And when I got there and went to perform, sure as hell, he put on because they had a projector screen on the background that was like on a screen while we were performing on the stage, and it said "It's Denny," like instead of just Denny. And he announces me on stage. He's like, "It's Denny," and it kind of was just one of those things that stuck. And then when I went to create all of the Spotify account and got a little bit more serious with it, and not just SoundCloud and YouTube drops. Denny was taken on like everything, or there was like 4 or 5.
I can imagine,
Denny.
Yeah, nothing else shows up. That's it. That's a smart way to like capitalize on the SEO, because like you said, Denny is for sure a common one. One word anything at this point, unless it's a super abstract word, is going to be taken.
What the fuck is up, Denny?
So that's a good way to like differentiate yourself without it being difficult. You know, it's like
absolutely,
you didn't put, like an obscure. You didn't go with Lil, which you know, nothing wrong with. You choose to, but like
IT''s.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's simple. It's not easy to forget. I think it works out pretty well.
Yeah, I'd say he did me a favor. He did me a favor, to be honest. Yeah.
And I guess the only part that would be difficult is the intro parts for like hosts, because they do have to be like, it's Denny.
Yeah.
But they could just be like, here's it's Denny.
Yeah, I say, here's it's Denny or something.
Or surprise.
Yeah.
You know, like they could just put a different word there to kind of spice it up.
Absolutely. Yeah. They did the English language.
Yeah.
They made it tough, but I will say I look at it as a favor for sure, though.
Yeah. I had a buddy who his DJ name is I Am Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just like literally I.M.O.K. So, but when you read it out loud, it's just hey everybody, I'm okay.
Yeah. Hey,
And I'm like, all right,
it's like, are you?
That's fun. That's
Yeah,
fun.
that is cool.
He literally goes on stage. He goes, I'm okay, and I hope y'all are too. And
That's
then he just
clever.
starts doing stuff. Yeah, like
Clever. It's
he
very clever.
introduced his name into his opening bit. So
Absolutely, yeah.
it's fun when you get to do a little with a lot in that sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or you go on to like Wayne and you have 5 different names and everybody knows you as each of them, you know?
Yeah, he introduces himself as like 4 of the 5 every time, so it's hard to forget him after a while.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's crazy.
Hell yeah.
Nothing like that for me. Just
No.
Denny, yeah.
If it works, it works.
Yes, sir.
But now let's go ahead and let's talk about your writing style. And we're going to break it up into chunks, but we're going to start right at the beginning. So when you get inspired, you're ready to make music. What are some of the things you do to get a track started?
I'm very selective with beats. It's become a lot easier now that I'm in a studio and a work environment to where beats are being made as I'm sitting there, and I can be like, tweak this, take this out, and add this, and I want this beat. And it's kind of tailor-made instead of going and buying a rented, you know what I'm saying? It's the difference between a tailored suit and a rented, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of that type of deal that's I fortunately have at my hands right now. So that's been a lot easier. And then they have a humongous catalog, so beat selection's huge, and I'm very picky with it. But then I write conceptually, so I have a concept or an idea that I want to write it around, and that's how I write a lot. And then when I'm writing in a group setting, it's more based on like a panning off somebody else's idea or a mutual feeling, but it's kind of sit with the notepad and I'll just freestyle some bars in my head. You know, maybe get 4 bars and I'm like, all right, that was weak. That was, you know, maybe do it a couple times. This bar really stands out, add it. And then I will just sit there and redo that 1 bar that I have down over and over until I get a second. And then I do those 2 bars until I get a third. And so it's just like, I'm leading into it. So like, if I said this, what could I do next? And then I've got the 1 bar. And then, like I said, 2 bars. And then I do those 2 bars and freestyle after I've spit what I have like wrote down, and then I'll do it again and again and again. And that's definitely my writing process. But it would definitely come down to the first part is how the beat sounds, a concept off of that, or how I'm feeling, and then kind of in that order. And then the rare chance, or not rare, but let's say the other side would be like doing a feature, and then sometimes you're kind of bound to work.
Yeah, you got to follow it like format. What they're giving you.
Absolutely, you know.
Hell yeah, no, I dig that. And then once you get a track finished writing, so it doesn't have to be like released per se, but once you've gotten it down to where you can start like learning it and memorizing it, how long does it usually take you to get comfortable to where you can perform it?
Perform it is, I would say, not to be vague, but I'd say it's definitely depending on the song. So there's ones where it's like a lot of chop, and it's they take extreme breath control, and I don't have the best lungs. Maybe chief a little bit too much and such, but I need to, you know, maybe do some cardio and start spitting or something while I'm doing it. But there's some songs where strictly because I have nobody on stage with me for the most part, if I don't hit every single word, because I don't use backtracks, you know, if I don't hit it, it's just empty. Yeah. So for those, I try to be aware of those and definitely, not that I don't break out of my comfort zone, but definitely try to stay songs that I'm confident with for sure. I'd say most likely 2 months to 3 months, and then it's at the point where I've got them to the point where I've just been replaying them, you know, and my girlfriend's playing them, and her little brother's playing. You know, it's gotten to that point to where it's like they're in my head. But I have some songs that they've been out for 6 years, and not 6, you know what I'm saying? They've been out for 3-4 years, and I still to this day don't perform it because they're just not the vibe for a lot of the shows that I'm doing, or they're complicated, you know? But yeah, I'd say probably 3-4 months to answer the question. Yeah.
Okay. Hell yeah. No, I mean, I think that's a good amount of time. Whenever people are like, yeah, I could do it in a week, I'm like,
yeah,
that seems really fast. But I get it. Some people, especially when they're like fully pen to paper, they've flushed out every single phrase
for sure.
By the time they even spit it, that they're like, they have already gone over it.
Yeah.
The equivocal amount of a year.
Yeah, exactly.
So I get that for sure. But I mean, that seems reasonable. And you definitely have a varying degree of approach within your sound. Like, you've got some that are quicker, you've got some that are slower, you've got some that are more spread out, you got some that are more just, to the point. Fire to like, I was listening to your most recent track, or your newest one, Diablo.
Hey.
Which I only mean this as a bit, but you're like an angrier little Windex in that track, and I'm here for that.
Little Windex.
I think if he took himself more seriously, he would actually be more enjoyable.
Yeah,
he's got some cool stuff.
I appreciate that.
But like I said, that's just more the bit of it. I mean, the beat is solid. It's a really tough track.
Yeah,
and like I mean, you were digging into it the whole time. The vocal layer on it was actually really interesting. Like it had this high and this low element to it that kind of runs through it the whole time, and like really kind of just gives it this extra bite.
Hey, I appreciate that a ton. Thank you for listening to me. Yeah.
But if I had to pick out a track, I do this bit where I choose one individually, but I had to choose two.
Okay.
The first one was Back Then.
Okay.
And I mean, it was different. Like, I mean, it just like stylistically, it has a very different feel than the rest of your catalog.
Absolutely.
It was a little more melodic. It was a little more like spoken even. And it just I don't know. There was something about it that just like had a lot of emotion in it. Yeah.
I wasn't trying to cut you off. I was definitely feeling some way when that one was released. And that was a concept that wasn't just a concept. It was, told a figurative story about something that really happened. And it just made for, I feel like that's a case where a lot of it is just like, it really happened. So it's, one of those ones I get emotional and you feel it in it for sure. So.
No, very much so.
That's my girl's favorite as well.
Oh, okay. Well, like I said, that is a bit of an outlier. So I did want to come at you with another one, just so we can hit something that's a little more like in your realm of consistent style. So I picked Loaded Questions. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that was off the album Chronicles of the Outcast King.
Yes.
And it's just, for similar reasons though, because like I feel like on that one you really leaned into it. You had these like more breathy moments. You had these moments where like you would pause. You had these moments where just like you still felt like you were chopping away, but like there was these like almost these like glistening moments of like not imperfection but just flair. Like they had every phrase kind of had this extra bite to it.
Yeah.
And I thought that just really gave it kind of that, like, because it's hard sometimes to convey the emotion in quicker verses. Like sometimes you got to be so focused on the technique that you don't get
breath
the
control
person.
for me. I feel like sometimes the flair gets lost, especially in performing when I'm trying to meet in a certain type of volume. And then, I'm like pushing myself. I was like, when I'm just spitting it, like kicking back, I can do 3 of my songs, but when I'm on stage, like, like for like example, like Diablo, like not the big dot, and I'm like yelling, it's like, all right, I'm 30 bars in and need some water and seconds for some air. So
exactly.
It's, definitely one of those things for sure. Yeah.
But like I said, Loaded Questions, I think had that mixture of like you were bringing the technique, but at the same time, a lot of your person was showing in it. So I thought it was a really cool track.
Yeah. I was trying to ask questions that like, again, loaded questions, but I was trying to ask questions that would make people think, but not also not make it think like I knew the answer.
Yeah.
Like I was asking myself the same questions. So
I
appreciate that. Older one, bro. That's everyone always says I'd be lying or back then. And it's like, so that's cool. Thank you.
Yeah. But I am curious to know, what is one of your favorite tracks to perform?
Sense of Adventure.
Okay.
It's also, it was released previously, and I decided that I wanted to take it, and it was right at the beginning when I had just started actually getting my music recorded and stuff. I had only had, I think, 3 or 4 tracks out on SoundCloud, and I had done that one. And I definitely struggled with a little bit of a slur. I just got my teeth fixed. I used to have a pretty bad split tooth and such, and I just got my teeth fixed, and my slur was a lot worse than it is now. And I decided I wanted to redo it and put it back on the Chronicles of the Outcast King album. And but for some reason that was one of my first songs that took off. And I remember, sounds ridiculous, but like I remember that was like one of the first ones that hit like 2,000 views, and like very like, for me, I was like,
that's a big number.
I was like at the time just like, oh my, and it's one of those ones that proceeded, and I know that there's a lot of, it just went into, we got big in Russia and Poland, and then it was one of the first ones that I saw, it started getting plays in other countries and stuff, but something about it, the flow of the hook, it's one of those ones that even if it's a completely new crowd, by the second hook, they're singing along.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those ones, and I feel like there's something just so, so rewarding.
Yeah, there's the tracks where people can figure out how to sing along with you like by the halfway point at the latest, like those are usually the ones that are going to kind of land a little bit differently, especially when, like, you know, I hate to say that a catchy hook can make a catchy song, but like it kind of can. You know what I mean,
it's a sad reality. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like music is supposed to be one of those things where like people can join in. Like obviously, you know, for the verses, you know, especially more in like your approach and things like that, like they're going to have to listen the whole time.
Yeah. They call it a universal language.
Yeah. But like people, when they go to see music, they want to join in when they can. And that's kind of like a form of music, you know, being collaborative just in a communal level anyways.
Yeah. My favorite part of the concert's always when...
when people start singing your music back to you, it just hits. Like when you get to hear like a group of people saying your words, it's powerful. Man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it hits different.
Yeah. So I mean, that's definitely a solid experience for sure.
Absolutely.
And then tell us about some new music that you've got going on. Let's talk about like stuff you haven't released yet, and let's like describe it to us. How is it different? What are some of the characteristics of things we can look
at? So I'd say I was doing a lot of leasing and buying YouTube beats, and because of that, you were getting different sounding.
Yeah,
I'd say same style and such. It's still like lyrical hip hop, and you still hear my sound and stuff, but you were getting a lot different. You know, maybe this one was a little bit more trappier, where this one was a little bit more boom bap, and it was just like, you know, I was finding good beats instead of finding. And now I've got ones that are like, hey, this sounds. You know, I've got a producer that's like, hey, this kind of sounds like you. I feel like that would be one of the big differences.
And like characteristics, no, you're fine.
Yeah.
Like, but I mean, that is a good one because I think that the consistency of beat in an album, I think, can really lock it in a different way. You know, like when people switch from like mixtapes, essentially, like producers. You know, like when Lil Wayne found Manny Fresh. You know what I mean? Like there was definitely that moment for a second. But like, what are some of the like stylistic approaches that you have? Like, did you stick to kind of more of the like chopper flow the same, or you like switching it up for this one?
I'd say definitely recently I have been a lot in a little less of the pulled a little bit from the R&B side, and have been a little bit more of the, I'd say, more of aggressive flow, kind of Diablo.
Yeah, I was gonna say kind of like Diablo.
Little less of the back then stuff. I wouldn't say that's out of the picture for sure, but definitely it's been a lot more group writing recently. So definitely trying to match other people's vibes. A bunch of we got a group project coming out. Got my album coming out in June, but I'd say the kind of the focus would be a lot of lyrical stuff, and then a slight sway in a couple different styles, but those are more for features purposes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say I definitely conceptualized into more of a semi dark, but definitely kind of just in the range from like boom bap to trap, but kind of more tight with a definitely more consistent feel than Chronicles of the Outcast King, where it was like R&B,
it's a lot of different
boom
things.
bap to you know, to trap. It was kind of just all over the place. I feel like it's got a more consistent sound, and that had my buddy Stormy actually was the one that initially lined it up and kind of put down the track list and the order for me there. So there's another person's ear helps for sure. So.
Yeah, very much so.
Absolutely.
Are you going to have more features on your upcoming album?
A bunch. So yeah, I'd say I had like next to none on, or I think zero.
I was going to say, I don't remember seeing any offhand.
Yeah, I think zero on the first one. And then after that, or recently, you probably noticed in the discography, there hasn't been anything dropped in over a year. And a lot of that is I've been doing a lot of features with my buddy No Offense, shout out No Offense, and C-Mad. And from C-Mad from the Dirt Squad, who makes all the beats for me, Noah. And then I'd say a lot of it has been hopping on features for some of their tracks, and then kind of building my catalog to get the album built up. A refresher on the question there.
Oh, I just do you have a lot of features coming up on it?
Yes. Yeah. I'd say on the album there's 10 songs, and I believe there's only 4 songs that are just solo.
Oh, okay.
And then also I am putting back on the album just for,
cool. Just so it's like there and present.
Exactly. Yeah. Just kind of bring that back in, and then a little bit of
I think it deserves a space in an album for sure. It's a really solid track.
And it breaks it up a little bit, give them a little bit of break from the thing. That's why I said a little bit it feels just a little bit more consistent and a little bit more structured than
Yeah.
Outkast. It's not just like all over the place, chaotic.
Yeah.
You know?
Are you re-recording back then, or are you just doing it like? Are you just taking the single?
Yeah, I
and
say
putting
I'm
on the
taking it
album?
honestly. Like you said, the emotion that went into it and such, I feel like I would over articulate it now.
Yeah.
And it would not come across the same way. One of those examples, do you know Diablo by Mac Miller?
Mhm.
So he dropped that one that was just like the single version. And then when he did the music video for it and such, it was almost a completely different track because he just did too much and took too much out. And I didn't want that to be the case. But I definitely say it wasn't like a Since Adventure, I definitely re-recorded because there was like definite parts of like extreme slurs and like imperfections that I had messed up.
Yeah.
And back then I felt like it was one of those things where like, yes, I'm more talented as an artist now, but could I repaint that same painting? You know, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah,
So
no, totally.
I chose not to touch it for sure.
Okay, I agree with. I mean, I was kind of you would have left it as is. Just
Hey,
like,
thank you,
like
man.
I said, I thought the performance was good.
Oh, thank
but like
you.
I was like, ooh, is he gonna like change it up to like make it match more this and that? But I think it was put together well enough that it didn't need it. So
Appreciate
glad
it.
to hear you keeping it the same.
Yeah.
Now let's take a moment and let's look at music as a whole. So like we've dived all the way into music you haven't even put out yet.
Mhm.
But let's take a step back and let's look at music in general. What are some of the things about newer music that you enjoy?
I'd say some of the parts about newer music that I enjoy is the relatability.
Mhm.
There's not that that's like I'm ripping styles, but a lot of it's like J. Cole even talked about it. Like I studied the greats cadence there, like I matched their cadence, and then I found a way to like apply it to myself. It's like a lot of, for me, when I'm listening to other music, it almost feels like studying for me. Learning the ins and out. Obviously, it's not like me knowing the ins and out of like the actual record label business and how the dark side works, and you know what I'm saying. Not necessarily that, but it's like, he did this type of album, like these type of music videos work. I feel like what I appreciate about the music now would be, I'd say probably just the amount of difference there is. You know, if you're truly, you could go find 100 to 1,000 good metal bands, 1,000 good rappers, hundreds of R&B groups. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's what I appreciate about music now is, and also it kind of comes to a negative, but there's so much of it, and it's so obviously and honestly super obtainable.
Very much so. And I mean, I think that's a big duality in music right now, is like a lot of people are like both pleased and bothered by like the oversaturation, as some of them are calling it. But I think music we've always tried to make more accessible, like that.
Absolutely.
You know, like LimeWire existed because people were tired of like having to not like only being able to pick like what was in their local store, like what was put out that way. Like you couldn't find stuff from all over the world.
Yeah.
It's like you can go and search for artists that are like a subgenre of a subgenre in a specific like country.
So you could click of a few buttons and you could literally dive into a whole new world and spend hours doing so without ever finding anybody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you'd never have to listen to the same artist twice if you didn't want to.
No, yeah, I feel like that's, again, it can come to as a downfall, but I feel like that's what I appreciate right now is music is so obtainable. It does come with its price, though.
Yeah, but I think that also makes the re-listen like equally as important. You know what I mean? Like now it's like you're not forced to listen to the one of 12
because they have an option to move on. How do you make it to where they want to listen to you again?
I think more that's the listener's decision. Like, that means that when something is important, it really is important. Like, but you're not forced to be like, oh, I have to like this. Like you remember the song "Get Low"?
Yeah.
It got played everywhere, but that's because that was like one of like 30 hit songs that everybody knew. So of course, was it a great song?
It's in their heads.
Probably not. Like I'm not.
They played the fifth. Not
like it wasn't the like genre bending, like mind challenging experience. It was just everybody had it because that was the ones they knew.
That's what they did.
Yeah. So now like music being so accessible and so available in its variety, when you land on something and it matters to you, it matters more almost because it superseded all these other songs.
Yeah, I feel like that's the big thing too, is because of that, I've become like I said, I'm so picky with the beats, but back when
Yeah.
You couldn't get beats anywhere. I wasn't as picky, but that's the same thing now. It's like now I can have my favorite artist drop an album and I can be realistic and be like, all right, I'm not just listening to this because of the name that's on it. I like this track. I like this style. I like these lyrics. Or, I'm like, that's the type of deal now. I feel like I can articulate because there is so much out there and, I can find what's just for me and, and turns to create,
Exactly.
So.
That, and I think it gives artists the opportunity to try new things without being beholden to like the decision. Like we all remember Lil Wayne's Rock album.
Yeah.
It wasn't the best.
No.
But like even he was like, if I'm gonna make garbage, I'm gonna make the hottest garbage. Like that was like his thoughts on it. Like
it wasn't
have
like
to
a
like it,
project,
but I'm doing it. But at the same time, like now when artists try something, there's a more welcomed approach in the realm of the music that they're trying it in even.
Yeah.
It's not so much like you don't belong in this lane. Whereas back in the day, like everybody remembers the Nelly crossover with Tim McGraw and they were like, wait a second, why is this happening? Now Beyonce's putting out a whole country album and it's like,
now I'm getting
welcomed in the world. Yeah, exactly.
Goodness.
But that's enough diving in on.
Oh, you're good, man.
Again, we got one last question to go in the middle portion.
Cool.
And it's probably the densest one in the interview. But we've talked a lot about, your experiences with music, the actions, the reactions. But when it's just you and music one-on-one now, what does music give back to you?
Nearly a sense of purpose. Again, not being negative, but I don't find... I try to find myself to be useful, and I feel like music is one of those ways where, again, I can speak for people that feel like they don't have a voice, but also like it's one of the only ways that I feel I'm heard. Because again, I do struggle with like the social media side of things and constantly being in front of a camera and stuff like that. That's what I struggle with. So music for me is a lot more tangible, and it's feel like I know everybody says this, but it's like my only sense of therapy as well. I could be having a terrible day and go in my room, put on a beat, come out an hour later, and I'm like, "Hi, honey, what are we having for dinner?" You know what I'm saying? Like it's like that type of deal for me. So I'd say,
I would say that even makes it almost a form of meditation. Even it sounds like it's a very grounding experience.
Absolutely, and I feel like that's why I'm so conceptual. Is because I've had those moments where I've had songs where I couldn't even write on that song unless I was mad. Like I've had songs where I had almost boxed myself in because they were so conceptual. You know what I'm saying? So I've definitely had that type of track. So definitely you're on point with that one for sure.
Yeah, no, I think that's actually a really interesting insight. I don't think I have a lot of people who mention that aspect where it's like sometimes you can be so like invested in the concept because it's so real time that if you don't do it then you can't recreate that. And I think that goes back to what you were saying about, choosing not to recreate or re-record. Re-record back then because like that's you can't remake
Same
that
thing.
So like capturing that in the moment, and that I think comes down to like the ability to record being so accessible now, but we won't dive into that.
But again, that comes into the music being so obtainable. Really, even in the Eugene area, sure you might be paying an arm and a leg with some of them, but you could find a couple different music studios pretty much, like I said, with finding artists, at the click of a button, you could find a studio to go to. Music is super obtainable.
Well, I mean, shoot, I think it like, we'll dig into it anyways. I think no, you're fine. I imagine it'd be tough to like be in a bad mood and just be like, no, I just have to hit up a studio. So like having a home setup, I think is what like makes those moments even more easy to obtain.
Absolutely.
Although I guess there probably are people who do. I guess like for me, I would never like go anywhere if I was pissed off, but like maybe there are people who are just
I don't have like a setup of my own, but when I go to the studio, I'm working with a bunch of my good buddies. So a lot of the time...
Oh, so you're just in your comfort zone anyway. So like...
A lot of the time they're like, hey man, you need space? Are you good? Or it's let's make some jokes to get Denny back to where he needs... You know what I'm saying? That they're aware. They're very aware.
Yeah.
So like that makes it tough, but I'm not going to lie and say that there's not times where I'm sitting watching a documentary and got my feet kicked up and I'm not like, going to the studio to maybe get a verse done. Doesn't... You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to lie and say there's not times, but honestly, the company... the environment there and the company I keep, it just makes it to where it's a little bit, it's definitely a doable thing, and
Yeah.
they've snapped me out of some funks for sure.
I'd say even it's probably a safe space for you to go and like be emotional. Like, you know, if it's a studio where it's like just a guy that like is well known for the area, you can't show up and be in a bad mood.
No, yeah, because it's
like,
business. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like if it's your friends, like not that it's not still respecting their time, but you know that you can show up as you are, and they're not going to be like, you need to cool off and come back later.
No, it's like, let's watch the first quarter of this playoff game and talk about what's up, and then if you're feeling it, let's get to cooking, you know. That's the big difference, man. And even here, you know what I'm saying, like if people, and even me when I first got here, you know what I'm saying, uncomfortable, it shows, you know. Your best work does not, like your best work doesn't come out, your best foot doesn't come forward. And I feel like that's a big thing with the music too, for sure, is comfortability, and
very much so,
making it your environment instead of, you know.
Be like making it a space that doesn't welcome you. If you don't always feel welcomed in it right away.
You're just renting the space.
Exactly.
There.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you for going through that and sharing that with us.
Thank you.
But now let's go ahead and let's move on to some hypothetical questions. And for these, sky's the limits. The questions are all made up, so the answers are allowed to be as well. But this first one's pretty straightforward.
Cool.
If you could work with any one person, the only requirement is they have to be alive. Who would you want to work with, and how would you want to work with them?
Oh man, I'm gonna definitely say Kendrick Lamar.
Hell yeah!
Probably definitely my top artist, just period. Out of bands, anybody, that definitely would be Kendrick, and it's I love his storytelling, and and that's, I feel like, how I would want to work with him, as well as his track, bring up Wayne again, but his the Mona Lisa, where they tell that story about sending out the girls to rob the dudes for them because the dudes were, you know, manipulated easy by women. And they tell this crazy story, passing it back and forth, and they both play two different sides, and that's like right up my alley with the consistent conceptual storytelling. I feel like being able to sit there and write an actual story and be like, yo, I was doing this happened, how do we, you know, it'd be like, I feel like writing our song would be like writing out a script for a movie. And it would be, the music video that would come from that would just be,
that'd be insane,
super nuts. I would definitely want to, and I'd want to feature on his song for sure.
Oh hell yeah.
And not just, I'm portraying from where I am now, you know what I'm saying? Right now, having Kendrick on my song would not be anything near like being on a Kendrick song, you know what I'm saying?
I think it could go both ways, you know what I mean? Like, I think putting him in a little bit of a box to like show up on versus being like, you do your thing and I'll kind of fill the space. Like,
absolutely.
I would love to see how he would approach that, because, you know, like Kendrick is so well versed in just taking a wide space and doing everything with it. And like, I think just being in the room with him would be the experience in and of itself.
Absolutely.
And actually, I like that you chose that track, because like, yes, like they are both very good concept artists. Like I don't think a lot of people talk about Lil Wayne's ability to like paint a picture of a room, but like
he's got imagery down to 4 bars.
Well, like the entire I've referenced this before. The first album I ever bought with my own money was the Carter.
Oh wow!
The very first track, like the first track, the middle track of the album, and the end of the album are him literally describing walking through a house, like room by room by room, by step by step by step. And so that's like, that is an art form. That is a talent. Like, I mean, Logic does a good job of it with
Can't do that without being a freestyle too. I feel like that's a big thing you see too, is artists that can and can't freestyle. And it's not, I'm not saying that there's that one's greater than the other, but a lot of storytellers can freestyle, and that's a big thing.
I think to be able to paint certain pictures, it definitely helps to have that tool in the toolbox.
Absolutely, yeah.
Hell yeah. And then subsequently, who's a local artist that you're aware of that you haven't gotten to connect with yet, but you would like to?
I would love to hook up with the Clumsies there in Bend. They are 2 dudes that, honestly, if you looked at them, you'd have no clue that they look like sleepers. They just look, not in a disrespectful way. They just look like this.
Very unassuming.
Exactly. They don't feel the need to rock giant chains and, you know what I'm saying, the crazy flagrant outfits and such like that. They just kind of do their thing, and then they get on stage and went from completely playing whatever role they were asked to play, and then when they get on stage, it just boom, it's like all eyes on them type deal. And then they both also have that kind of dynamic to where they've got the yin and yang. It's like they're both so different, but work together so well in different ways. A lot like the Suicide Boys type deal, where they both have similar styles but completely different sounds, and they somehow find a way to make both of those sounds the same style. And they're just, I feel like I'd love to work with them.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
The Clumsies is a cool name.
Clumsies, I know. Yeah,
everybody at them in the comments. Let's see if we can make that happen.
At the Clumsies. Yeah, shout out for real. Yeah, they're awesome people.
And then for this next one, like I said before, sky's the limits, and it's pretty literal in this sense.
Yes, sir.
But if you could perform anywhere in the world, and you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access or building stability or power, it was guaranteed the best lineup, guaranteed the best show, and it doesn't have to be a venue. It could be anywhere. Where would you want to perform?
So I thought hard about this. I honestly, watched a couple episodes, and I was like, shoot, that's great. And then what got me too is when you said, don't worry about like building structure.
Yeah.
And I was like,
well, it's like some people may want to perform at like the Roman Colosseum, which is not physically a good option if you just left it as is.
Absolutely.
But for the sake of this, it's a little more open-ended.
Yeah, I'd say I'm not from Ireland, but all my family is. I would want to go to like one of the old like castles that's like you see on all those the old windows things that like those castles out in like Scotland or Ireland. Just I feel like that would be so awesome. My last name's Mann, so from the island of Wales and such. So it's and I don't know. I feel like that would be crazy. Just like I think acoustics, I feel like would be insane too.
Yeah, I think you can rent them as Airbnbs. Like, I think that's actually like a thing.
See, I don't specifically have like one of those. I just feel like my grandma and dad would just be like, "Oh, he did it right," like, "Oh, he did it." So yeah, I feel like that would just be, I don't know, and kind of just out there too. But yeah, the Irish for sure show through.
No, I dig that for sure.
Yeah,
I dig that for sure, and that would definitely be cool because you could like do it like where everybody's inside the castle and you're performing on like the top part.
Yeah, absolutely.
Down to there, you could do it where everybody's on the outside. Acting it on the walls.
Or Farquhar there's setting,
Or what's the Monty Python now? Go away before I talk to you a second time. Yeah, no, that would be good.
Yeah, for sure. I just feel like it'd be cool out there, but also you know what I'm saying? There's a reason that these abstract places would be cool, but add tourism into your thing. Like if they're not just coming to see a show, they're going,
exactly.
It would be sweet. So
yeah, hell yeah, no, I do that. And then to wrap up the hypothetical questions, if you could get one more album from anybody, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could have not put out an album in 100 years, they could have put out an album yesterday. Who would you want an album from?
Austin Carlisle, the lead singer of Mice and Men. He got a. I don't want to say disease, but he got a mental disorder, and it made it to where he had to stop doing music, and their music changed a lot. You see it a lot with those bands, multiple different singers and stuff throughout the years. But I'd say Austin Carlisle back to mentally healthy, and before I feel like he let the vibe that he was painting for so long consume him. But I'd say Austin Carlisle.
Hell yeah, that's a solid answer
for sure.
All right. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. What can we look forward to? What can we look forward to between now and the end of the year? Next month in June, I've got June 18th. I've got my sophomore album Motion coming out. Oh, exciting!
Diablo was actually the lead single for that. Me and my buddy Storm, we were actually just recording some reels and maybe possibly some music video shots for that today.
Oh hell yeah!
For Diablo, getting that out there. I've got a merch line coming out when that drops. Pre-order is up for that now as well, and pre-order and pre-save link for the for Motion as well. Like I said earlier, I kind of got one of those spots where for sure building up a bunch of different songs and such, but was doing a lot of features over the last year and such, and finally got it all riled in and started working on an album, but also didn't want to overdo the album and not have anything, back to square zero, no catalog, nothing in the vault. But the Motion album is very excited for. I don't want to give it out too early but some bigger features on there that are honestly something that I'm very proud of. Some of them are going to blow people away for sure. And then the merch for sure. I've my only other line, I had like 20 shirts made and they were more for the old label and not more for me. Like we all had, it said like the label's name on the front, not my name,
Gotcha.
So definitely excited to have like my first full merch line with CDs and stickers and such.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, honestly, and then right after that, we've got the group album coming out with me, No Offense, Stormy, and then all of my buddies from Dirt Squad Productions and CMAD out that are down in Eugene. Just they make I'd say probably 70% of my album was produced by them.
Rad. Well, definitely looking forward to all of that.
Absolutely, yeah.
For this next one, go and look straight at the camera. Tell everybody how they can find you.
Yo, you can find me on Instagram as its_Denny_ or on all other platforms, just It's Denny, especially with music streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, all those deals. You can find me as just It's Denny.
Oh, yeah. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you want to put on while you're on here?
Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but shout out Stormy for sure. Definitely get him on here.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. And then you should get CMAD out here. And
I think I was already talking to them.
Dude, just great vibe. Very professional with it, but still very young, very wise. I'd say ahead of his years for sure. Man, I would not be where I'm at right now without him. So big shout out to him. But honestly, I feel like you guys would just for sure, especially with your music background. So absolutely.
Oh, yeah. All right, and with that being said, we've got one last question to go. But before we do, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second.
Cool beans.
As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And one more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary. Make sure to click the link below and go check them out. Guarantee you're going to like it. And with that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation.
Cool.
But what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? So it's a deep cut. It's one not a lot of people would know, but it's one you think everybody should know.
I'm going to go out there, and I thought about it heavy. I thought about it for sure. And don't want to, say anything again, but I was on a psychedelic trip when I was like, I believe 17. And Young Thug's album, Beautiful Thugger Girls.
Okay.
It was a very abstract album, very out there. He did a country song on it even. I think it's called Relationships or maybe Family Matters.
It's been a minute since I've heard Young Thug in general. So
yeah, especially,
that is a deep cut for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was a little bit out there, and we listened to the whole album just on repeat, I think 2 or 3 times, just sitting in my buddy's garage playing video games. And it was just one of those ones. But Feel It is one of my favorite, actually, it is my favorite Young Thug song of all time. And he's one of those artists that's pretty controversial. And I'm aware that some of his songs are very strange. But Beautiful Thugger Girls, it's a very obscure album, but I feel like it was very, it was meant to come on that night for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, Beautiful Thugger Girls.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you for that rec.
Hey, thank you.
And with that being said, we're going to go to get up on out of here. Thank you so much for joining us
Dude,
today.
thank you so much for having me out. Seriously, it means the world.
Happy to have you.
Real.
Oh yeah. And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's JamBox. I'm Jimmy.
And I'm It's Denny.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap. This is not a podcast. This is a show. Keep jamming.